The space around Kepler 442 had been quiet for 300 years. Today, that silence broke when two fleets met among the distant stars. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the small human vessel approach. The ship looked tiny compared to his fleet of 12 Zephyrian dreadnoughts. Each of his ships could destroy planets. This human ship looked like it could barely carry supplies for a few months. "They are hailing us, Admiral," reported his communications officer. "Put them through," Kethvar ordered. He expected to see fear in the human's eyes. Instead, he saw something that confused him completely. The human captain appeared on the screen with a wide, genuine smile. He had brown hair and kind eyes that seemed to light up when he saw the Zephyrian fleet. "Hello there. I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Liberty's Edge. Welcome to our little corner of space. It's so exciting to meet you." Kethvar blinked his 4 eyes in confusion. This human acted like he was greeting old friends, not a massive alien war fleet that could vaporize his ship in seconds. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your vessel immediately." Captain Morrison's smile never changed. "Oh, I think there might be some confusion. We're just a science vessel doing research. But wow. Your ships are incredible. Would you like to come aboard for dinner? Our cook makes amazing apple pie. I bet you've never tried human food before." The Admiral's second-in-command, Commander Veltar, leaned forward. "Sir, they appear to be completely unafraid." "I can see that," Kethvar muttered. "Human, do you not understand? We are a war fleet. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your ship is nothing compared to our power." Morrison nodded enthusiastically. 17 systems? That's amazing. You must have incredible stories. Dr. Chang, our xenobiologist, would love to hear about your culture, and our engineer Bobby would go crazy seeing your ship designs. Would you like to arrange a cultural exchange? Kethvar looked at his officers. They all appeared as confused as he felt. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever reacted this way. They had faced desperate fighters, cowardly surrenders, and clever negotiators. They had never faced someone who seemed genuinely excited to meet them. "Put me through to their ship directly," the Admiral ordered. Minutes later, a small transport shuttle left the Liberty's Edge and approached the Zephyrian flagship. Kethvar watched through the viewing ports as the shuttle docked. The airlock opened and out stepped 3 humans. Captain Morrison led the group, still wearing that strange smile. Behind him came a woman with black hair carrying scientific equipment, and a man in engineer coveralls who kept looking around with wide, excited eyes. "Admiral Kethvar," Morrison extended his hand. "It's such an honor to meet you in person. This is Dr. Lisa Chang and Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez." Dr. Chang stepped forward with genuine curiosity. "Your physiology is fascinating. 4 eyes and your skin has such an interesting texture. Do you mind if I take some readings? Nothing invasive, just basic scans." Bobby was already staring at the ceiling. "How do you generate power for ships this size? Your energy systems must be incredible. Do you use fusion? Something more advanced?" The Zephyrian guards looked to their admiral for orders. They had weapons ready, but these humans acted like they were at a friendly meeting, not a military confrontation. Kethvar decided to test them. "You realize we could kill you all right now." Morrison's smile faltered slightly, but not from fear. He looked genuinely sad. "Why would you want to do that? We just met. I was hoping we could be friends." "Friends?" Commander Veltar spoke up. "Your species is unknown to us. You could be a threat." Dr. Chang laughed gently. "A threat? Admiral, we're scientists. Our ship has no weapons except basic defense systems. We study stars and planets. We're explorers, not warriors." Bobby nodded eagerly. "Yeah, we've been traveling for 8 months just to study this system. The star here has some really unique properties. We've been looking forward to this research for years." The Zephyrian officers exchanged glances. These humans seemed to be telling the truth. Their ship showed no signs of military modifications. Their crew appeared to be exactly what they claimed, scientists and explorers. But something bothered Admiral Kethvar. In his experience, even peaceful species showed some fear when facing a superior military force. These humans showed none. They acted like the massive weapons pointed at their ship simply didn't matter. "Show us your ship," he commanded. Morrison's smile returned to full brightness. "Of course. We'd love to give you a tour." Back aboard the Liberty's Edge, the humans showed their guests everything. The ship was exactly as it appeared, a research vessel. The laboratories were filled with scientific equipment. The crew quarters were small and simple. The engine room was efficient but not particularly advanced. Dr. Chang showed them her research on stellar formation. Bobby explained their propulsion systems with enthusiasm. Morrison introduced them to the crew, who all seemed genuinely happy to meet alien visitors. The cook, an older woman named Martha Stevens, insisted on preparing a meal for the Zephyrian delegation. She made roast beef, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. The aliens had never tasted anything like human food. "This is remarkable," admitted Commander Veltar as he tried the apple pie. "Sweet but with complex flavors," Martha beamed with pride. "That's my grandmother's recipe. Been in the family for 200 years. As the visit continued, Admiral Kethvar found himself more confused than ever. The humans appeared to be exactly what they claimed, but their complete lack of fear still bothered him. Any species should show some concern when facing overwhelming military power. Finally, as the Zephyrian delegation prepared to leave, Kethvar decided to make his position clear. "Captain Morrison, the Zephyrian Empire claims this system. You will leave immediately." Morrison's smile didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "Oh, that's unfortunate. We were really hoping to complete our research here. This system isn't claimed by any government we know of. It is claimed by us. Now." Morrison nodded slowly. "I understand. Could we perhaps share the system? There's plenty of space for everyone. We're only studying the star. We wouldn't interfere with whatever you need to do here. No. You will leave or we will force you to leave." For just a moment, Morrison's smile flickered. Then it returned, somehow sadder than before. "I see. Well, I suppose we'll have to find another system to study. That's really disappointing, but I understand." As the Zephyrian shuttle departed, Commander Veltar turned to his admiral. "Sir, they appear to be completely harmless." Admiral Kethvar watched the small human ship preparing to leave. "Yes, but something about them troubles me. No species should be that unafraid." The Liberty's Edge slowly moved away from the system, its engines glowing softly in the darkness. To the Zephyrians, it looked like another easy victory. They had no idea how wrong they were. 3 weeks later, the Zephyrian war fleet arrived at New Eden Colony. Admiral Kethvar expected to see panic, desperate evacuation attempts, or frantic military preparations. Instead, he saw something that made no sense at all. The human colony continued its normal daily routine. "Sir, we are detecting no military preparations," reported his tactical officer. "No weapon systems powering up, no defensive positions being established. Are they evacuating?" "No, sir. Life signs indicate normal population levels. They appear to be going about their regular activities." Kethvar stared at the planet below. New Eden was a farming colony with about 50,000 residents. His fleet could destroy the entire planet in minutes. Yet the humans below seemed completely unconcerned about the 12 massive warships hanging in their sky. "Open a channel to the colony leadership." The main screen activated, showing a middle-aged woman with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She smiled warmly when she saw the Zephyrian admiral. "Hello, I'm Governor Kate Sullivan. Welcome to New Eden. I hope you had a pleasant journey. Would you like to visit the surface? We're just starting our harvest season, and the apple orchards are beautiful this time of year." Admiral Kethvar felt the same confusion he had experienced with Captain Morrison. "Governor Sullivan, we are not here for tourism. We are here to claim this colony for the Zephyrian Empire." Governor Sullivan's smile dimmed slightly, but she still looked more disappointed than afraid. "Oh, that's unfortunate. This is our home. We've been here for 15 years, building our communities and farms. I'm sure we can work something out that benefits everyone." "There is nothing to work out. You will surrender this colony immediately, or we will take it by force." The governor sighed softly. "I'm afraid we can't do that. This is our home. These are our families, our farms, our lives. But I'm sure we can find a peaceful solution. Why don't you come down for lunch? We can discuss this properly." Commander Veltar leaned toward his admiral. "Sir, they do not seem to understand the situation. Put me through to all frequencies. I want every human on that planet to hear this." The communication system crackled to life across New Eden. In homes, farms, schools, and workplaces, humans stopped what they were doing to listen. "Humans of New Eden, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation procedures. This colony now belongs to us. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." Across the planet, humans listened to the message. Then, remarkably, most of them went back to what they were doing. In the main farming district, Pete Johnson continued harvesting his corn crop. His neighbor, Sarah Williams, kept working in her vegetable garden. At the elementary school, teacher Nancy Adams continued her lesson about Earth history, while her students colored pictures of ancient cities. At the colony's small military base, Colonel Ryan Brooks reviewed the morning reports with his staff. The base had exactly 43 personnel and equipment designed for disaster relief, not warfare. "Sir," asked Lieutenant Amy Parker, "shouldn't we begin evacuation procedures?" Colonel Brooks looked out the window at the massive alien ships. "The governor hasn't given evacuation orders. Until she does, we continue normal operations. But sir, those ships could destroy us easily." Brooks smiled, the same calm smile that seemed common among humans. "Probably. But running around in panic won't change that. Let's focus on what we can control." An hour later, when no evacuation had begun, Admiral Kethvar ordered landing forces to deploy. 12 heavily armed shuttles descended to the planet's surface, carrying 300 Zephyrian soldiers. They landed in the colony's main square, expecting to face desperate resistance or cowering civilians. Instead, they found something completely unexpected. A small crowd of humans had gathered to greet them. An elderly man with white hair and a friendly face approached the Zephyrian commander. "Hello there. I'm Mayor Jim Patterson. Welcome to New Eden. You must be tired after that long trip down from your ships. We've set up some refreshment stations for you." Behind him, several human women had indeed set up tables with coffee, sandwiches, and fresh cookies. They smiled and waved at the confused alien soldiers. "What is this?" demanded the Zephyrian ground commander. "Hospitality," Mayor Patterson replied simply. "You're visitors to our town, even if the circumstances are unusual. We believe in treating visitors well." A young woman approached one of the Zephyrian soldiers, offering him a cup of coffee. "Would you like some? It's fresh brewed. I wasn't sure how you take it, so I brought cream and sugar too." The soldier looked at his commander, completely bewildered. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but nothing had prepared them for this situation. Children played in the nearby park, occasionally glancing at the alien soldiers with curiosity rather than fear. Their parents watched calmly, some even bringing their children closer to get a better look at the visitors. Colonel Brooks arrived with a small group of his personnel. He wore no weapons and approached with the same inexplicable calm that seemed to characterize all humans. "I'm Colonel Brooks, Colony Defense Coordinator. I understand there's been some confusion about this planet's status." The Zephyrian ground commander raised his weapon. "There is no confusion. This colony surrenders to the Zephyrian Empire immediately." Brooks nodded thoughtfully. "I can understand why you might think that, but we can't actually surrender our home. This is where we live, where our families are, where we've built our lives. I'm sure we can find a better solution. There is no other solution. Surrender or face the consequences." Brooks looked genuinely puzzled. "What consequences? You want to destroy a farming colony full of families? That doesn't seem very practical. What would you gain from that?" The question caught the Zephyrian commander off guard. In truth, New Eden had little strategic value. It was simply a farming world that happened to be in their path of expansion. We gain control of the system." "But you already control the space around the system," Brooks pointed out reasonably. "We're just farmers. We don't have any space defenses or military facilities. How do we threaten your control?" Mayor Patterson stepped forward. "Perhaps we could arrange some kind of cooperative agreement? We could provide food supplies for your fleet in exchange for protection." Win-win situation. The Zephyrian soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. This wasn't how conquests were supposed to work. Conquered peoples were supposed to be afraid, angry, or desperate. They weren't supposed to offer coffee and suggest mutually beneficial arrangements. Back on his flagship, Admiral Kethvar received increasingly confused reports from his ground forces. "Sir, the humans are treating our soldiers like welcome guests. They're offering food, asking questions about our culture, showing them around the colony. What about their military?" "Sir, they don't appear to have a real military. Their defense coordinator has 43 personnel with disaster relief equipment. No weapons capable of threatening our forces. Then why haven't they surrendered?" "Sir, they keep saying they can't surrender their home. They don't seem to understand that resistance is futile." Admiral Kethvar decided to visit the surface himself. He needed to understand what was happening to his conquest. He landed in the colony's town square and immediately found himself surrounded by curious humans. They didn't press close or act threatening, but they clearly wanted to see the alien admiral. Governor Sullivan approached with that same warm smile. "Admiral Kethvar, I'm so glad you decided to visit. Would you like a tour of our colony? I think you'd find our agricultural techniques quite interesting." "I am not here for tours," the admiral replied firmly. "I am here to claim this world." The governor's smile became sad. "I know, and I'm sorry we can't accommodate that request. But this is our home. These are our families, our lives, our future. Surely you can understand that we can't just give that up. Then you force us to take it." Governor Sullivan nodded slowly, her expression growing thoughtful. "I see. Well, if that's truly your final decision, I suppose I should send a message to Earth Command. They'll want to know about the situation here." For the first time since arriving at New Eden, Admiral Kethvar felt a chill run through him. Something in the governor's tone had changed. She still seemed sad rather than afraid, but there was something else now, something that made him suddenly uncomfortable. "What kind of message?" he asked. Governor Sullivan's smile returned, but it looked different somehow. Sadder, but also strangely final. Just letting them know that New Eden requests immediate implementation of Protocol 7. The message from New Eden traveled through space at faster than light speed, reaching Earth Command in just 6 hours. Admiral Kethvar didn't know what Protocol 7 meant, but he was about to find out. On his flagship, the Zephyrian intelligence officer Mextal worked frantically to decode human communication networks. What he found in their data systems disturbed him deeply. "Admiral," Mextal reported, his voice uncertain, "I have been studying human historical records. Their behavior makes no sense based on their past." "Explain." "Sir, humans have been fighting wars for over 5,000 years. Their planet's history is filled with conflicts that make our conquest look restrained." Admiral Kethvar turned from the viewing screen showing peaceful New Eden below. "Then why do they act so weak?" "That's what troubles me, sir. They don't act weak. They act tired." Mextal brought up holographic displays showing human historical data. Images of massive battles, destroyed cities, and devastating weapons filled the air around them. "Look at this conflict called World War II. 60 million humans died. They built weapons that could destroy entire cities in single attacks. They fought across their entire planet for 6 years. Commander Veltar studied the images. "If they have such weapons, where are they?" "That's another puzzle, sir. According to their records, they stopped building the most destructive weapons after that war. They have treaties limiting their military technology. Treaties they could break," the Admiral pointed out. "Yes, sir, but they haven't for over 300 years. They focused on exploration and science instead of war." More holographic images appeared, showing human achievements in space exploration, medical research, and technological development. The same species that had once fought devastating wars had transformed into peaceful explorers. "Sir," Mextal continued, "I found something else disturbing. Human children's entertainment includes many stories about war, but they're different from our war stories." "How different?" "Our war stories celebrate conquest and glory. Human war stories focus on sacrifice, survival, and protecting others. They tell stories about soldiers who fight impossible battles not to win, but to save innocent people." Admiral Kethvar found this information unsettling. "What does this tell us about their current behavior?" "I think, sir, that humans know exactly what war means, and they don't want it." Down on New Eden, Dr. Lisa Chang continued her cultural exchange with the Zephyrian science team. She had set up her equipment in the town library, where curious aliens and humans gathered to learn about each other. "Your species evolved as hunters," Dr. Chang explained to a Zephyrian biologist. "That's why you value strength and conquest. It's natural for you." "What did humans evolve as?" the alien scientist asked. Dr. Chang smiled, but there was something different in her expression now. "Persistence hunters. We tracked prey across vast distances. We never gave up, never stopped following until our target collapsed from exhaustion." She brought up displays showing human anatomy and physiology. "See these muscle groups? They're designed for endurance, not speed or strength. Humans can run for hours without stopping. We can track prey for days across hostile terrain." The Zephyrian scientists studied the data with growing unease. "This suggests your species is highly specialized for long-term conflict." "Oh yes," Dr. Chang agreed cheerfully. "Humans are excellent at not giving up. It's probably our most defining characteristic. In the town square, Bobby Martinez was showing Zephyrian engineers around the colony's power systems. His enthusiasm remained genuine as he explained human industrial technology. "This is just a basic colony setup," Bobby said, pointing to the fusion reactor that powered New Eden. "Back on Earth, we have much bigger systems, industrial complexes that can build almost anything." "What is your total industrial capacity?" asked a Zephyrian engineer. Bobby scratched his head thoughtfully. "Oh, that's hard to calculate. Let me think. If we converted all our civilian factories to military production, we could probably build..." He started doing calculations on a tablet. "Maybe 10,000 ships per month? More if we really pushed it." The Zephyrian engineer stared at him. 10,000 ships per month? "Yeah, roughly. Of course, we'd never do that unless we absolutely had to. We use our factories for much more interesting things like space habitats and research equipment." The alien engineer's mind raced. The entire Zephyrian Empire had maybe 50,000 ships total. If humans could build 10,000 ships per month, they could replace the entire Zephyrian fleet in just 5 months. "How many ships do humans currently have?" he asked carefully. Bobby shrugged. "I don't know exactly. Maybe a few thousand. Most of them are exploration and science vessels like the Liberty's Edge. We don't really need warships since we don't fight anyone." "You don't fight anyone?" "Nope. Well, except for the Devourers, but that's different." The Zephyrian engineer felt his blood turn cold. "Who are the Devourers?" Bobby's cheerful expression darkened. "Oh, they're this really nasty species from the Outer Rim. Machine intelligences that consume entire planets for raw materials. We've been fighting them for about 50 years now." "Fighting them? Successfully?" "Oh yeah, we're winning. Slowly, but we're pushing them back. It's tough though because they don't surrender or negotiate. You just have to destroy every single one of their ships and facilities. Takes a lot of patience." The engineer realized he was learning something terrifying. Humans had been fighting a war against machine intelligences for 50 years and winning. While doing that, they still had enough resources and attention to send science vessels exploring and building peaceful colonies. Meanwhile, in the colony's school, teacher Nancy Adams was showing Zephyrian cultural observers how human children learned about their history. "Today we're studying the Battle of Thermopylae," she told her class of 8-year-olds. "Can anyone tell me what happened there?" A young boy raised his hand. 300 Spartans fought against a huge army to protect their home." "That's right, Tommy, and what happened to the Spartans?" "They all died," a girl answered solemnly. "But they held the enemy long enough for Greece to prepare its defenses." Nancy nodded approvingly. "And why do we remember this battle?" The children answered together, as if reciting a familiar lesson. "Because sometimes the most important victory is making the enemy pay too high a price for winning." The Zephyrian observers exchanged worried glances. Human children were being taught that dying in battle could be victory if it served a larger purpose. This was not the mindset of a peaceful species. After school, some children approached the alien observers with genuine curiosity. "Are you going to fight our parents?" asked a 10-year-old girl named Emma. One of the Zephyrians knelt down to her level. "Would that frighten you?" Emma considered the question seriously. "I guess I'd be sad if you hurt people. But my dad says humans are really good at protecting each other. He fought the Devourers when I was little." "Your father is a soldier?" "He was, now he's a farmer. But Mom says once you learn to be a soldier, you never really stop being one. You just get better at hiding it." That evening, the Zephyrian ground forces reported another disturbing observation to Admiral Kethvar. "Sir, we've been watching the humans' daily routines. Something is wrong." "Define wrong." "Sir, they move too efficiently. Their emergency services respond too quickly. Their communication systems are too well organized. This looks like a civilian colony, but it operates like a military base." Commander Veltar added his own observations. "Sir, I've been watching their children play. They don't play normal games. They play scenarios involving last stands, evacuation procedures, and tactical withdrawal. It's as if they're unconsciously preparing for war even during playtime." Admiral Kethvar felt increasingly uneasy. Everything about human behavior suggested a species that was both genuinely peaceful and thoroughly prepared for violence. It was a combination he had never encountered before. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're detecting increased traffic in the human communication networks. Ships throughout this sector are changing course and heading toward this system. How many ships? Difficult to determine, sir. The signals are heavily encrypted. But it appears to be a lot of ships. Admiral Kethvar made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Prepare to demonstrate our power. Target the empty warehouse district and fire a warning shot. Let these humans see what our weapons can do. The beam from the Zephyrian flagship lanced down from orbit, vaporizing 3 empty buildings in a flash of superheated plasma. The explosion could be seen from across the colony. In the town square, humans stopped what they were doing and looked up at the smoke rising from the warehouse district. Their expressions changed. The friendly smiles faded, replaced by something harder and more determined. Captain Morrison's shuttle had arrived during the bombardment. He climbed out of his ship and walked slowly toward the destroyed buildings, his usual smile completely gone. When he reached the crater where the warehouses had been, he stood silently for a long moment. Then he walked directly to where Admiral Kethvar was standing with his ground forces. "Admiral," Morrison said quietly, "I really hoped we could be friends." The sadness in his voice was genuine and profound. But underneath it, Admiral Kethvar heard something else, something that made him wish he had never come to this system. The smoking crater where the warehouses had stood changed everything. Admiral Kethvar watched the humans' faces transform as they stared at the destruction. The warm smiles disappeared, replaced by expressions he had never seen before. Cold, calculating, and infinitely patient. Captain Morrison stood at the edge of the crater for several minutes, saying nothing. When he finally turned to face Admiral Kethvar, his eyes held a sadness so deep it seemed to reach across the space between species. "You bombed empty buildings," Morrison said quietly. "You wanted to show us your power without killing anyone. That was considerate of you." Something in his tone made Admiral Kethvar's skin crawl. It was a demonstration, a warning of what happens to those who resist the Zephyrian Empire. Morrison nodded slowly. "I understand. You're trying to minimize casualties while establishing dominance. It's actually a fairly sophisticated approach to, conquest." The fact that Morrison analyzed the bombing like a military tactic rather than reacting with fear or anger disturbed the Admiral more than screaming would have. Governor Sullivan approached. Her expression similarly transformed. "Captain, I've sent the Protocol 7 message to Earth Command. Response time should be approximately 18 hours. "Understood, Governor. Admiral Kethvar, you and I need to talk. Privately." Morrison led the Zephyrian Admiral away from the crowd, walking slowly through the colony's main street. The humans they passed looked different now. They still went about their daily tasks, but with a focused efficiency that hadn't been there before. "Admiral, before this goes any further, I want you to understand something about humans," Morrison began. "We really genuinely wanted to be your friends. That wasn't an act or a deception. We offered you our food, our hospitality, our knowledge, because we hoped you might be different." They stopped outside the colony's small museum. Morrison gestured to a display visible through the window showing artifacts from Earth's history. "See those exhibits? They represent 5,000 years of human warfare. We know war, Admiral. We know it better than almost any species in the galaxy, and that's exactly why we don't want it." Admiral Kethvar studied the display. Ancient swords, medieval armor, rifles from various eras, and finally images of weapons that could destroy cities. The progression was disturbing in its implications. If you understand war so well, why do you refuse to surrender when faced with superior force? Morrison's smile returned, but it was nothing like his earlier expressions. This smile was cold and sharp as winter wind. "Because, Admiral, you're not facing superior force. You just think you are." Before Kethvar could respond, Morrison continued. "Let me tell you about the Devourer War. 50 years ago, we encountered a machine intelligence that consumed planets for raw materials. They had technology superior to ours, numbers that seemed endless, and no capacity for negotiation or surrender. They walked past the town library, where Dr. Chang was still working with Zephyrian scientists, but her demeanor had changed too. She moved with the same focused efficiency as the other humans. The Devourers destroyed 12 human colonies before we figured out how to fight them effectively. We lost 8 million people in the first year alone, but we learned. We adapted. We got very, very good at destroying things that needed to be destroyed." Admiral Kethvar felt a chill. "You won against superior technology?" "We ground them down, ship by ship, base by base, planet by planet. It took us 50 years, but we pushed them back to the outer rim. We're still hunting down their remaining forces. Morrison stopped walking and turned to face the Admiral directly. The thing is, Admiral, humans don't just fight wars. We study them. We learn from them. We get better at them. And once we start a war, we don't stop until it's finished. In orbit above New Eden, the Zephyrian communications officer was detecting strange signals throughout the sector. Admiral, I'm picking up massive gravitational anomalies. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. How many ships? Commander Veltar demanded, Sir. I count over 300 vessels. They appear to be approaching in formation. 300? Are they civilian evacuation ships? Negative, sir. Energy signatures suggest military vessels. Large ones. Admiral Kethvar received the report through his communicator. 300 ships was more than 6 times the size of his own fleet. Morrison, he said, his voice tight with growing concern. Are those your reinforcements? Morrison checked his own communicator. Actually, that's just the local response fleet. Earth Command should arrive in about 12 more hours. Local response? There are 17 human colonies in this sector, Admiral. Each one maintains a small defense fleet. When Protocol 7 goes into effect, they all respond together. The Admiral realized he was learning something that terrified him. Humans didn't just have individual colony defenses. They had coordinated military responses across multiple star systems. How many ships will Earth Command bring? He asked, though he dreaded the answer. Morrison consulted his communicator again. For a full Protocol 7 response? Probably around 2,000 ships. Maybe more, depending on what forces are available. 2,000 ships. Admiral Kethvar commanded 12 vessels that had seemed overwhelmingly powerful just hours ago. Now they felt like toys. Morrison, your people are civilians, scientists and farmers. Where do these warships come from? For the first time since the bombing, Morrison's expression showed genuine emotion. He looked infinitely tired. Admiral, there are no civilians in human space. There are only people who haven't been called up for active duty yet. The terrible truth began to dawn on Admiral Kethvar. Every human he had met, every friendly smile, every offer of food and hospitality, had come from people who were also soldiers. Not former soldiers or potential soldiers, but actual trained military personnel living civilian lives until needed. The cook who made us pie, he said slowly. The farmer showing us his crops. The teacher with the children. Martha Stevens served 20 years in the fleet before retiring to New Eden. Pete Johnson was a combat engineer during the Devourer War. Nancy Adams commanded a destroyer squadron before becoming a teacher. Morrison gestured toward the colony around them. Every adult human in this colony has military training and experience. Most of them are veterans of actual combat. They came here to build peaceful lives, but they never stopped being soldiers. The Admiral felt the world spinning around him. The children? Begin military training at age 12. Not because we want them to be soldiers, but because in a universe with devourers and other threats, everyone needs to know how to fight. Dr. Chang approached them, her scientific equipment now clearly revealed as military sensors and communication gear. Captain, I finished my biological assessment of the Zephyrian forces. Standard humanoid physiology. No unusual resistances or advantages. Their weapons and armor are effective but not particularly advanced. She spoke about the Zephyrian military capabilities the way a scientist might discuss research samples. Her tone was professional, analytical, and completely without emotion. Thank you, Doctor. Please forward your report to the incoming fleet commanders. Admiral Kethvar realized that Dr. Chang had been studying his forces as potential targets, not subjects of scientific curiosity. Every friendly question, every innocent inquiry about Zephyrian culture and technology had been military intelligence gathering. You've been preparing to fight us since the moment we met, he said. Morrison nodded sadly. We hoped we wouldn't have to. Right up until you bombed those warehouses. We were still hoping you might choose friendship instead of conquest. Bobby Martinez jogged up to them, no longer the enthusiastic engineer who had shown the aliens around. His movements were those of a trained soldier. Captain, I've completed the technical assessment. Their ships are powerful but use predictable energy patterns. Our countermeasures should be highly effective. Estimated casualties for a full engagement? Bobby's answer was delivered with the cold precision of a military briefing. Assuming they fight intelligently and use their advantages well, we should be able to neutralize their entire fleet with minimal losses. Maybe 12 to 15 of our ships damaged, probably no total losses. Admiral Kethvar stared at the man who had enthusiastically shown his engineers around just hours earlier. Bobby had been evaluating Zephyrian military technology the entire time, calculating exactly how to destroy it most efficiently. "Morrison," the Admiral said, his voice barely a whisper. "What are you people?" Morrison's sad smile returned. "We're what happens when a species gets really good at war and then desperately tries to stop being what they're good at." He looked up at the sky, where Zephyrian ships still hung like threats against the stars. "We wanted to be explorers, Admiral. We wanted to study the universe, make friends with other species, build peaceful colonies where our children could grow up safe. We tried so hard to become something better than what we were." His voice carried a weight of infinite sadness and infinite resolve. "But the universe keeps forcing us to remember what we're really good at, Admiral." Kethavar looked around the colony with new eyes. Every human he could see was moving with purpose now, their earlier friendliness replaced by cold efficiency. They weren't panicking or afraid. They were preparing for war with the calm competence of people who had done this many. Admiral Kethvar stood in the smoking ruins of the warehouse district, watching the horizon where more human ships appeared every hour. The friendly farming colony had transformed into something that chilled him to his core, a military base that had been pretending to be peaceful. "Sir," his communications officer reported from orbit, "Earth Command Fleet has arrived. 2,047 vessels, including 16 dreadnoughts larger than anything in our database." The Admiral closed his eyes. His 12 ships against over 2,000. The mathematics of destruction were simple and final. Captain Morrison waited patiently beside him, no longer smiling. The change in the human was complete. The friendly explorer had been replaced by something far more dangerous, a soldier who understood exactly what was about to happen. "Admiral," Morrison said quietly, "the commander of the Earth Fleet wants to speak with you." His name is Admiral Frank Harrison. He's experienced in these situations. The communication screen activated, showing a human with graying hair and scars that spoke of many battles. Admiral Harrison's eyes were cold as winter space, but his voice remained calm and professional. "Admiral Kethvar, I'm Admiral Harrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. I understand you've claimed one of our colonies." "Admiral Harrison, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. This system is now under our control." Harrison's expression didn't change. "I see. Captain Morrison, what's the situation on the ground?" Morrison stepped into view of the communication screen. "Admiral, the Zephyrians arrived 3 weeks ago and demanded surrender. When we refused, they bombed empty warehouses as a demonstration. Protocol 7 was implemented 18 hours ago. Any casualties?" "None, sir. They've been careful to avoid killing anyone." Harrison nodded slowly. "Admiral Kethvar, that shows restraint. I appreciate that you haven't harmed our people." The Zephyrian Admiral felt a tiny spark of hope. Perhaps these humans could be reasonable. "However," Harrison continued, "you've made a fundamental error. You've threatened a human colony. That cannot be allowed to stand." The hope died. "Admiral Harrison, surely we can negotiate. Your fleet outnumbers mine significantly. There's no honor in such an uneven battle." Harrison's laugh was cold and bitter. "Honor? Admiral, we've been fighting the Devourers for 50 years. They don't understand honor. They only understand destruction. We learned to speak their language very fluently." Behind Harrison, the bridge of his flagship became visible. It wasn't the clean, bright command center the Admiral expected. It was dark, efficient, and covered with battle scars. The crew moved with the silent precision of people who had fought too many wars. "The ship you're speaking to," Harrison continued, "is the Dreadnought Relentless. We've used it to destroy over 300 Devourer installations. Its main guns can crack a planet's crust. Its armor has survived direct hits from weapons that can vaporize cities." Admiral Kethvar stared at the scarred vessel on his screens. It was larger than his entire flagship and radiated an aura of terrible purpose. "Admiral Harrison, my empire has conquered 17 star systems. We are not some primitive species to be intimidated." 17 systems, Harrison repeated thoughtfully. "The Devourers consumed 43 systems before we stopped them. Admiral, you're not dealing with primitives. You're dealing with people who learned to fight an enemy that ate planets for breakfast." Morrison stepped forward. "Admiral Kethvar, Admiral Harrison is giving you the same choice I offered. Leave now and tell your people that humans prefer peace. Stay and learn why we're so good at war." And if I choose to fight? Harrison's smile was sharp as a blade. Then you'll provide my crews with some live fire training. It's been 6 months since our last engagement with Devourer forces. My gunners are getting rusty. The casual way he spoke about destroying the Zephyrian fleet terrified Admiral Kethvar more than any threat could have. This human admiral wasn't boasting or trying to intimidate. He was simply stating facts. You would massacre my people for target practice? Admiral, Harrison said, his voice suddenly tired. I've watched Devourers turn inhabited planets into raw materials. I've seen them process entire populations into component atoms. Compared to that, your conquest of 17 systems looks almost gentle. He leaned forward, and Admiral Kethvar saw something in his eyes that made his blood freeze. The thing is, Admiral, after 50 years of fighting monsters that literally eat worlds, fighting other humanoids feels almost easy. On New Eden's surface, the transformation of the colony was now complete. What had looked like a peaceful farming community now revealed itself as a fortress. Hidden weapon systems emerged from apparently innocent buildings. The town's communication array expanded into a full military command center. Dr. Chang approached carrying equipment that was clearly not scientific instruments. Captain Morrison, sensor sweeps are complete. All Zephyrian forces are accounted for. No hidden ships, no backup fleets approaching. It's just the 12 vessels in orbit. Thank you, Doctor. What's your assessment of their combat readiness? Their ships are well maintained and their crews appear competent. Against a peer enemy, they'd be formidable opponents. Against our current forces, she shrugged. It would be over very quickly. Governor Sullivan joined them, her earlier grandmotherly appearance replaced by the bearing of a military commander. Captain, all civilians are in hardened shelters. Colony defenses are at full readiness. We can begin ground operations whenever you give the word. Admiral Kethvar realized that even the governor was a military officer. Every human on this world had been playing a role, maintaining a fiction of peaceful civilian life while preparing for exactly this situation. How long? He asked Morrison. How long have you been preparing for this? Morrison looked genuinely sad as he answered. Since the day we established the colony, Admiral. Every human settlement is built with defense in mind. Every colonist is trained for combat. We learned that from the Devourers, but you seemed so peaceful, so genuine in your desire for friendship. We were genuine, Morrison replied. That's the tragedy of it. We really did want to be your friends. We offered you everything we could, our food, our knowledge, our hospitality. We hoped you'd choose cooperation over conquest. Bobby Martinez approached with what looked like a weapon, but moved like a soldier who had carried weapons for decades. Captain, my technical assessment was accurate. Their shield harmonics follow predictable patterns. Our penetrator rounds should achieve 96% effectiveness. Morrison nodded. Very good. Dr. Chang, what about their life support systems? Standard atmospheric requirements. Targeted disruption of their life support would force surrender without significant casualties. They were discussing the complete neutralization of his fleet as if it were a routine technical problem. Admiral Kethvar realized that these humans had probably fought hundreds of similar engagements. Admiral Kethvar, Morrison said, turning back to him. You're hearing my people discuss how to defeat your fleet with minimal casualties. That's not because we enjoy war. It's because we've learned to be very good at ending conflicts quickly. To minimize loss of life, Dr. Chang added. Both ours and theirs. Admiral Harrison's voice came through the communicator again. Admiral Kethvar, I'm going to make this very simple. You have exactly 1 hour to begin withdrawal from this system. After that, I will consider you a hostile force threatening human civilians. And then I will do what I've been trained to do for 50 years. Remove threats to human life with maximum efficiency and minimum risk to my people. The hour that followed was the longest of Admiral Kethvar's life. He watched his instruments as human ships took positions around his fleet with surgical precision. They didn't posture or threaten. They simply moved into optimal attack positions and waited. On the surface, he watched the humans of New Eden continue their preparations with calm efficiency. Children were safely sheltered but not in panic. Adults moved to defensive positions but without fear. This was clearly something they had practiced many times. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the human ships have us completely surrounded. They're using formations I've never seen before. Effective formations. Sir, if they open fire, our entire fleet will be destroyed in the first salvo. They are positioned to hit us from 17 different angles simultaneously. Commander Veltar approached his admiral. Sir, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. Admiral Kethvar looked at the peaceful colony below, then at the massive human fleet surrounding his ships, then at Captain Morrison standing calmly beside the crater his weapons had created. Captain Morrison, he said finally, if I order my fleet to withdraw, what happens next? Morrison's sad smile returned. You go home, Admiral. You tell your people that humans prefer peace, but we're very good at war. Maybe someday, when your empire is ready for friendship instead of conquest, we can try again. And if I refuse? Morrison gestured to the human ships surrounding them. Then Admiral Harrison will demonstrate exactly how good humans have become at war. Your fleet will be destroyed in approximately 4 minutes. Your ground forces will be captured with minimal casualties, and you'll become a footnote in our military history. But we would fight bravely. I'm sure you would, Morrison agreed. But Admiral, bravery doesn't stop guided missiles or